He's an absolute highlight at everyone, particularly the more formal the event and the more that Louis is Louis, it's just absolutely divine. But Louise, staying with you, and in a rather, I suppose, jarring paradox, while Trooping the Colour is happening, Meghan is on the other side of the pond spruiking jam and dog biscuits. Now, was this intentional or was it a mishit?
Well, I would argue that this is sort of intentional, but also a bit of a mishit because the timing was very, very poor. Instead of doing the classy thing and sending a very public message, particularly to Charles and Kate, given their cancer battle, all the best for Trooping the Colour today, I hope it goes well, or something, in a Meghan style. Instead, one of Harry's polo friends was putting up Instagram pictures of dog biscuits and raspberry jam. Now, I don't blame him at all. Clearly, Meghan had a hand in this. But to take the spotlight away from her father-in-law and sister-in-law is really, really poor form, I think. I don't think anyone cares about jam or dog biscuits at a time when the whole world's attention, in particular, is on Kate and her bravery on the world stage and being very stylish, unlike her sister-in-law, who really has put herself in the doghouse by spruiking products and not focusing on the royal family. Very poor indeed.
Sometimes the best thing to do is absolutely nothing. And Bronte, a report this week suggesting that Harry and Meghan would leave the US if Trump was elected, that there is a celebrity favourite. Is that why Harry's looking for a residence in the UK?
Well, there's a bit going on here. Harry no longer has police protection in the UK, and they were, as we know, Harry and Meghan were evicted from Frogmore Cottage, which was within the palace ground, within the royal estate. Last year, they were evicted there by King Charles. So at the moment, when Harry comes over to the UK, which he has done a number of times recently, he stays in a hotel. So that's obviously not a really good long-term plan. And also he has been making it clear, he did an interview earlier this year after he came and saw King Charles following his cancer diagnosis, where he's indicated that he'd like to spend more time in the UK. Probably it's the case that he would like to, have his children have some sort of relationship with his family in the future. And it's just extremely unlikely that any of the royals would go to the US to see them. So it's kind of bridging that gap. There's been just a little bit of noise apparently from their camp, indicating that they are looking to sort of ease back into some sort of UK residency. With Harry, he hasn't spent time with his UK friends either. That's the other part. We often talk about the royal family and the fact he doesn't see them, but he also hasn't seen much of his UK friends. So again, if he has a bit of a base here, it's a way to sort of interact with people and sort of rebuild a little after a time where it does seem like he hasn't had a lot to do with people from his old British life. It makes a lot of sense that they are looking to sort of create something that's a little bit more permanent here, because the hotel stays, if he is going to continue coming over here, it's not really a good long-term plan.
And we obviously don't get to see a lot of what goes on behind the closed doors at the palace, but a report this week from a palace insider that Meghan is the second biggest diva after Princess Margaret. Now, Louise, I've got just over a minute for you. Does that sound about right to you?
Well, it's interesting what your measure of being a diva is. I mean, Princess Margaret was well known for being quite demanding, in fact, even quite rude at times. Would be invited to dinner with her aristocratic mates and turn up 2, 3, 4 hours late. I don't think they cared. I think the cachet of having Princess Margaret at your table was worth any price to pay, really. And I don't think that a diva situation has really been Meghan's problem so far. It's more about the campaign of vilification she's waged against her husband's family and her own in-laws as well. So it's interesting that Jenny Bond, who's a very experienced and well-respected former BBC royal commentator, has actually sort of connected the two of them. So what would have been interesting if Princess Margaret had been alive and had met Meghan, what the dynamic would have been there, I think, in a way. But to say that Margaret's a bigger diva is probably true in a way, because I think there's other issues with Meghan and the royal family, rather than being demanding or, expecting freebies, etc., etc.
I think Margaret would have come out on top, quite frankly. Louise Roberts, Bronte Coy, thank you so much for joining us.